Childhood lasts a lifetime. Think about that for a moment. That is the motto which has influenced nearly everything in this programme, selected by our special guest editor today, Baroness Floella Benjamin, and that's what she's wanted to shine a light on. Although she now sits as a Liberal Democrat peer, it's the decades she spent presenting children's television on programmes such as Play School and Play Away that continue to influence her campaigning. She thinks it's time for public sector broadcasters to step up and commission more high quality content for children to help them navigate the world.
Where now is Biker Grove? Where now is Tracy Beaker? Where are all those shows that used to happen? Programs that was just there for children. The diversity of the programs that we had was vast.
I mean, where they are as well is a good question, and how children will find them. And is that being surfaced well enough? Something we'll get onto in just a moment. But 10 years ago, let me share this with you, children would watch an average of more than 2 hours of television a day. That's now dropped by more than 70% to just over 30 minutes. But wait, in its place, unregulated social media platforms such as YouTube and TikTok, which Floella Benjamin likens to a Wild West as they're fraught with danger and inappropriate content. She believes that the government has a role to play. And on that note, I've been speaking to the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, on her behalf, and I began by asking if she is aware about what children are watching.
Yeah, very much. As Culture Secretary, but probably more importantly as a mum of a 9-year-old, this is something that affects my family like every family around the country. Picking up from the last government, we've introduced much stronger measures to make sure that content that is harmful to children can be taken down, and my colleague Peter Kyle announced a strengthening of that just this month. But there's a more sort of profound point that I think Baroness Benjamin makes, which is that a lot of the content that we make here in the UK is very high quality content directed towards children. It helps inform them about the world, it helps with their emotional and mental well-being and their development, and it's very enjoyable as well. And what we're finding is that more and more children are moving on to video sharing platforms like YouTube. They're finding their own content. It's often not as high quality as the sort of content that the public service broadcasters and the commercial broadcasters are producing, and that is one of the concerns that as a government we're really keen to work with people like Baroness Benjamin.
To your point of what you could do, how you could work with those platforms, would you regulate that, for instance, YouTube had to foreground British-made content to British children, quality content, rather than endless random content that could be not necessarily harmful but not necessarily beneficial?
Where we see a role for regulation is around the work that the Technology Secretary has been doing about making sure that harmful content is taken down, that children are better protected. What I'm looking at is whether we could give greater prominence to high quality content on platforms like YouTube.
But how would you do that without regulation? Because they haven't chosen to do that so far. Do you actually think you can do it by just asking these platforms?
Well, I think that ought to be the starting point for any government, that you ought to open a dialogue, and that's what we're intending to do. So I've written to the video sharing platforms. The intention is that we would much prefer for them to work with us to make sure that children are able to see and find high quality content much more easily. There's something great about YouTube. It's democratising. You know, you've got these people who can start their careers from their bedrooms, and we're very well aware of that, but there is a balance to be struck here to make sure that children can find that really good quality content. We were very struck by the fact that the last government had run a scheme where they put more investment into children's content, but what they found was that although that meant that more high quality content was made, children weren't necessarily watching it, and we think that's because children weren't able to find it. Most children of my child's age aren't on live TV. They're looking things up on the internet, they're on their iPad, so we've got to make sure that they're easily able to find that.
Would you consider a specific funding mechanism for children's content? I mean, commissioners have said, for instance, tax relief is all very well, but perhaps bring back the young audience's content fund.
Well, that's the fund.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, that's the fund that the last government tried.
Would you bring it back?
The evidence suggested that although much more content was made, it didn't get to the children, because at the age of somewhere between about 4 and 8, they migrate onto their iPads, they stop watching live TV, their parents stop looking for the content for them, and they start looking for it themselves.
Do you let your child have an iPad without any observation, only because you brought it up?
Yeah, he's got an iPad. He's on it a lot more than I would probably like, but
it's a challenge for us all, but I just wondered how
it is very much a challenge.
Now you're looking at this and talking to experts. Have you changed how you parent around
no, so we've always had filters on what he can see. So one of the things that the video sharing platforms have been very good at is making sure that parents have the control and are able to put those filters on.
But is he into any series? I'm thinking like Biker Grove, Grange Hill.
Not really. He's quite train mad, so he watches a lot of YouTube videos about trains. He watches Newsround. They watch it at his school,
Yeah.
so he's got into the habit of watching it at home.
It's about that habit for me. So to go to looking at what Baroness Benjamin has said, she's just not mincing a word. She says children's TV is in turmoil, it's in absolute crisis, and there is a desperate need for immediate intervention. Do you agree? And as Culture Secretary, do you think children's TV is on its knees?
I don't think it's on its knees. I think if you look at what we produce in this country, whether it's CBeebies and Hackatea Dog, whether it's Peppa Pig, which has gone all over the world, I think we do very well at children's TV. The problem is that it's not necessarily very profitable. The reason that I wouldn't use the language of on its knees is because I think it genuinely is one of the crown jewels. It's one of the things that we are really good at here in the UK, and the job of government is to support that and help it to flourish.
Who have you written to? Tell us who you've written to.
So we've written to the video sharing platforms.
Not just YouTube. TikTok.
The widest range. We've written to Ofcom to ask Ofcom to prioritise children's television as part of their public service broadcasting review. That's due to report in the summer, and we'd like to see them look at the challenges for public service broadcasters in particular around children's TV.
But we do also have very few broadcasters in the UK that actually commission children's content. You need the competition. I mean, the whole ecosystem is very difficult.
Well, I was interested in the fact that you use the word ecosystem, because that's very much how we see it as a government. That you often find that when you're talking to the likes of Netflix and Amazon and Disney, that they will talk very highly about the role of the BBC in particular, but of the public service broadcasters in training and skilling up staff that then enables them to come and invest in the UK. That investment in turn can support the wider British ecosystem. And the job of government, I think, is to help get that balance right, so that we are attracting that inward investment, so that we've got companies from all over the world coming to invest here, but that's not harming or crowding out uniquely British content.
According to Ofcom data from 2002 to 2018, so a good spread, there was a 52% decline in funding for children's TV and a 70% decline in hours of public service media for children. So as Culture Secretary, I know you're still relatively new in the job. How long are you going to give good grace to those video sharing platforms to use their platforms for good in this way?
I think it's important to say that a lot of the public service broadcasters are looking at how they can get more of their content online. That obviously means that there has to be a proper agreement with the video sharing platforms to make sure that people are properly remunerated for the work that they've put in and for the investment and the content that they've created. But we do see this very much as an ecosystem. I think it's a great thing that a kid like mine can go onto an iPad during a pandemic, go onto BBC iPlayer and download BBC Bite Size. We don't want to take these freedoms away from children, and we don't want to...
But that foregrounding, I suppose, is just... Have you got a deadline in mind?
I haven't got a deadline in mind. Campaigners like Baroness Benjamin are calling for the government to step in and act. It's certainly something that we will consider doing if we can't get a voluntary agreement.
Well, how hard will it be to say no to the presenter who you used to watch on children's TV as the Culture Secretary?
My experience is you don't say no to Floella Benjamin.
Well, there you go, got some policy decided. I'm trying to do the best for my guest editor here, but
Should be delighted.
It's a serious issue. You obviously, as you say, considering, but maybe she'll want a bit more commitment. But Lisa Nandy, it's good to have a window into the thinking in your department on this, and also how you've been viewing it as an ecosystem. Good luck with the monitoring of YouTube videos over the festive period.
Oh, thank you. You too.
The Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy. We did ask YouTube for an interview on today's programme. No one was available. But we did get this statement from YouTube: the safety of our users is our main priority, and our mission is to ensure that our platform provides kids and teens with safe, age-appropriate online experiences that allow them to learn, grow and explore.
The time now is 8:20.